All right, what's up, my friends? Buckle up. New Capenna, complete set review, constructed, limited, every card. This is the multicolored section, and it is by far the biggest section. I considered breaking it up into houses or families or some other way. It wasn't really logical to break it up anyway, so we're going to do all the houses and then the multicolored cards at the end. They are in order, so it'll be by house, but we are doing the entire thing at once. So buckle in, let's go. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the follow button, do all your things to support me, and let's freaking go. Starting off with the Brokers cards, and starting off with Brokers Ascendancy, and right off the bat, a sleeper pick here. When I first saw this card, I didn't think it was very good. And now I put a little more thought into it. I think Brokers Ascendancy is actually pretty awesome. So, of course, there is an Ascendancy for each color. These are similar to the Ascendancies from Khan's block. Green, white, blue. Enchantment. Beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. So, sort of like a nerfed Luminarch Aspirant for all your stuff every turn. At first, this seemed kind of because I was looking at it like a Glorious Anthem. And Glorious Anthem effects are typically not very good and constructed. They're just not good enough anymore. But the fact is that this card just scales every turn, similar to Luminarch Aspirant. So, I play a 1-drop. We'll just like vacuum. I play a 1-drop. I play a 2-drop. I play this, they both get grown. I play a 4-drop, all 3 of these get grown. I play a whatever, then they all get grown again. So this thing can add a lot of power to the board over and over. It scales really well. It plays really well with tokens. I think this card's actually really good. Like really, really good. Now, of course, needs to be a deck for it. You know, it's a 3-color card. You know, there has to be sort of a Bant tokeny deck. I could definitely see like a green-white token deck splashing this. You know, splash for this and some counter spells in the sideboard. And the fact is that it also works pretty well against Meathook Massacre, because Meathook Massacre has the thing where it kills small things really, really well. But if you can size up against the Massacre, like Luminarch Aspirant often will size up against Massacre, so you can never kill it with the Massacre. This does the sort of same thing, which is pretty good as well. And beating Meathook is a huge important thing for decks in this format. So I think this card's good. I think the loyalty counter thing is like pretty secondary. It's not going to happen very often. But I think as like a super Luminarch Aspirant, I think this card's good. Absolute slam dunk bomb in limited. Probably unbeatable in limited if it stays in play for longer than a turn or two. But the card's great. That's my sleeper pick. I think this card's really, really good. I like it a lot. But the Broker's Charm, I'm much less high on. So Broker's Charm here. I actually wrote an article about all the charms on CoolStuffInc.com, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Wrote 2,000 words about all the charms. Go find it at CoolStuffInc.com. From like last week, I think. Bant Charm here, instant. You get destroy target enchantment and draw 2 cards, and you get Ambuscade, which is basically creature you control +++, and then it deals damage to a creature or planeswalker. The problem with this card is, long and short of it is, that these abilities don't go well together. This is 2 halves of Esper Charm, but green and Esper Charm don't jive, and then instant speed, divination, and bite effects don't jive either. So I think this card's actually actively pretty bad. I really, really struggled to think of a deck that wants to play, you know, the bite effect as well as the draw 2 effect. I think this card's unlikely to see play unless the enchantment ability is really, really good, or some sort of weird Bant control deck with some creatures in it gets to be good. So overall, I think it's bad. I can check out the article for our full thoughts on it. In limited, it's great. It's very, very good. But constructed, I think this card just isn't great. Disciplined Duelist here. Every family has one like really good uncommon. This is the Bant version. This is a Bant mana for a 2/1 double strike with a shield counter. Phenomenal limited card, obviously, because it's just a really, really good card. Constructed, double strike is a good ability, and the shield counters are also quite good. I think it's still a little too fragile though at 2/1. Dies to -1/-1 effects and so on and so forth. So constructed, probably not, but great limited card. Probably the worst of the good uncommon cycle for all the houses. Then we have Endless Detour. Bant mana for an instant. This puts a target spell, non-land permanent, or graveyard card on the top and bottom of the library. I think this card's pretty bad. I know people are like really, really about this card, but the reality is that like Aether Gust is good and all, but this is a much harder to cast 3 mana spell that doesn't really get rid of what they're doing. If they want to keep it, they can. If they don't want to keep it, they don't have to, which is important. So you target their important 4-drop with this, they're just going to put it on top and cast it next turn, you know? And it's hard to make a tempo play with a 3-color, 3-mana instant. So I think this card's pretty bad. It's cool, it's kind of flexible, but it has the charm problem of being really, really flexible, but not really doing a good job at answering things. I think overall this card's kind of eh. Obviously, rate limited cards to find removal spell if you're playing these colors, but I think overall for constructed, kind of a dud. Kind of a dud. And it might have been the trap if there weren't many other traps too. But yeah. So next up is Falco Sparer Pact Weaver.
Do a barrel roll.
4-mana Legend Bird Demon, which is a strange creature type. It is a 3/3 flying trample for 4, which is okay. ETB is the shield counter on it, which is also pretty good. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast spells from the top of your library by removing a counter from a creature you control, in addition to paying their other costs. So, this is a 3/3 flying, protected, trampling future sight if you have counters to spare. That can be really good. Being able to play cards on top of your deck is awesome. It is cast spells, it is not play lands, so that is a bit of a downside. But by itself, it can remove its own shield counter, which isn't necessarily great. But if I have a Luminarch Aspirant in play, I can just keep freaking going with this card. So this card's pretty good. I like that it protects itself, and I like that it gets card advantage. It is flying. The body's pretty good. I don't really know what deck wants this card as a 4-mana card. I think if this was a Bant, a 3-mana 2/2 flyer, it would have been like really, really, really good. But at 4 mana, I'm a little concerned that it's just really not doing enough. But it is a pretty powerful card. It's obviously a bomb card limited for sure. But at constructed, I think it's close, but might not get there. Again, at 3 mana, 2/2 flyer, this card's insane. At 4 mana, I'm not really sure. Up next is Lagarella, the Magpie. Right? Magpie. Bant mana for a 2/3. I'm going to paraphrase this card for you because the wording is really, really bad. Basically, when you play this, for each player, you can exile a creature. And when this card dies or leaves the battlefield, they get those cards back. If it's under your control, you put 2+1/+1 counters on it. So, in Magical Christmas Land, you play this, you exile your own Spirited Companion, and you exile their good creature. This dies, their thing can come back, but your companion comes back as a 3/3 and draws a card. So, up against a lot of competition, both Skyclave Apparition and Brutal Cathar are legal in this format, and they are better removal spells, I think. If you're playing some sort of like dedicated Blinky deck, this card could do some cool stuff with it as far as like blinking your own stuff. Obviously, if you exiled their token, it's kind of cool as well. So, the card's cool. In multiplayer, the way it's worded is you can target each player for one creature, but for the most part, I think this card is kind of cool, but I think that the ceiling is pretty good, but the floor is awkward. It's hard to cast. It's just not really great, I don't think. More of a commander card, more of a multiplayer card, because you can affect multiple players, which is kind of cool. But all in all, I think this card is probably not really there in constructed. In limited, it's great, obviously, but in constructed, I just don't think it's really there. Constructed being standard, historic, alchemy, playable formats. Moving on to Rigo, Streetwise Mentor. There is one card for each house that is the base color, and then 2 hybrids. So this can be white, 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 green, white, 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 blue, or just straight Bant. 2/2 for 3. EDB is a shield counter on it, which is very good. Whenever you attack a player with Planeswalker with 1 or more creatures with power 1 or less, draw a card. So this card is kind of cool. It protects itself, and it's a possible card draw engine. The problem is power 1 or less is kind of a tough sell if your opponent has any blockers at all. If you're playing flyers, this can be kind of cool. This thing can draw multiple cards. I believe if you split a player in a Planeswalker attack, you draw 2. I think if there's any judges in chat, you can check me out here. But the card's pretty sweet. I like seeing these card draw effects in white. This card does a good job of feeling both Bant and mono white at the same time, which is kind of cool. Card's kind of cool. It's either the Boreal Grazer, sure. Adeline. There's a bunch of things that could definitely work with it. Although Adeline's tokens won't work, but card is cool. I question if a 2/2 for a 3 that might draw some cards is good enough because the 3-drop slot of white decks is so overburdened, and this card needs to be able to be castable and good enough and everything else. But it's cool. It's a cool card. Amazing with the fish tokens in limited, and very good in limited in general. Great limited card. But on the whole, I think it might fall a little short in constructed, but it's a great limited card. Soul Emancipation is next, and Terastodon has a new, not really competition, but a new friend. 7 mana Bant for a 5/7. And when it ETBs, destroy up to 3 target non-land permanents. For each of those permanents, controller makes a 3/3 flying angel. So you can't do the Terastodon trigger, or trick, where you kill your own lands. Occasionally with Terastodon, the right play is just to play it, kill 3 of your lands, put 18 power and win the game that way. Can't do that here. You can turn your own shitters into 3/3 flyers, but not your lands. This is the kind of card where most people don't cast Terastodon. You reanimate it, you natural order for it, whatever it is. And this card is just worse than Terastodon is in most scenarios. 7 mana is not really hard castable. I think this card is not really good enough for constructed play. For limited, it's definitely very reasonable. And for Commanders, that's pretty fun as well. But I think overall, just worse than Terastodon and not that exciting overall. Spara's Educators, 5 mana. There's one of these at common for each guild. It is a 5, 6, or 7 mana common that is decent, but has the ability where you can pay 2, exile it from your hand, and give your land the ability to mana fix. And then if you want to, you can just still cast the card. So you can fix early and then later on cast it as a spell. These are going to be really good and limited as far as fixing goes. Great cycle, really cool design. The Bant version is a 4/4. When it comes into play, your opponent's creature can't attack or block until your next turn. Pretty good. A little Bergstrider-esque, although not as good. But solid card. Very solid card. Cool fixing. Reasonable body. Reasonable creature. It's a citizen. It's cool. Cool card. On to Cabaretti. Cabaretti is the Naya shard. And Cabaretti Ascendancy is pretty freaking bad. Same thing. Ascendancy. 3 mana enchantment. Beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card or a planeswalker card, put it in your hand. If it's not, you can put it on the bottom if you want to. This is a 3 mana enchantment that draws a card every other turn if you build your deck, if you warp your deck building really hard. And that's not really good enough. Because if you're these colors and you're playing a lot of creatures, you need to be able to do things, and affect the board. This card doesn't do that. It's just a bad card draw enchantment in a color combo that doesn't really want that. So I think this card's pretty bad. Don't like it at all. Cabaret Charm is next. Cabaret Charm, again, I have an article about charms on coolstuffinc.com. Go read that for full thoughts. This charm is kind of weak, but does synergize well. Phenomenal limited card. Constructed, maybe, but probably not. Again, my full thoughts are in the article. Let's go read it. Coolstuffinc.com. Just type in Jim Davis charms on YouTube, on Google. Brazen Upstart. This card is awesome. Again, there's a cycle of the good uncommon 3-color cards, and this one is phenomenally good. Naya mana for a 4/2 vigilance, so pretty good body. When it dies, look at the top 5 cards of your library. May reveal a creature from among them, put it in your hand, rescue on the bottom. So this is a 4/2 vigilance for 3. That when it dies, it replaces itself within the creature. That's awesome. It blocks well, it attacks well, it's got vigilance. Obviously not Friends of Magma Spray and things like that, but if they kill this card, you draw another card. I think this card is very playable and constructed. Very playable. Think of like Sprouting Thrinax and friends like that. Just great value and a very solid body. Great attacks, great blocks. Solid card, bomb unlimited. Just phenomenally solid card. Fleetfoot Dancer is next. No awards, but this card is great. Questing Beast of the multicolor variety. It's funny how Questing Beast has like 14,000 words on it, and this card has 3 words on it. And this card, in some ways, is better than Questing Beast. Trample, Lifelink, Haste. Trample and Lifelink are huge. And then the Haste is the huge part also. This is all the best parts of Adult Gold Dragon with none of the bad parts. You got 4 toughness, trample, and lifelink. This thing races really, really, really well. And unlike Questing Beast, where Questing Beast can play defense on Vigilance, if you're on as a kill spell, it can't play defense. This gains the life immediately. So, bam, comes in, attacks, gains 4, deals damage. Really, really good card. There has to be a deck for it. I don't think this card is Siege Rhino levels of good, where you're just like playing it in your mid-range deck, but it honestly might be. This card is just phenomenal. I don't really understand why this strange prancing elf has trample and lifelink and haste and stuff, but whatever. Card's really good. Play it in a lot of decks. Great curve topper. Great and limited. Just an awesome card. And if you're playing any way to augment it, it's even better. It's even better. Incandescent Aria. This is a pretty weird one here. Naya Sorcery. 3 damage to each non-token creature. So, kind of a weird Wrath. If you're playing a token deck, obviously it's going to be one-sided Wrath. But 3 damage isn't really always enough. It's in a lot of different colors. This feels like the sort of like narrow sideboard card that will be really, really good in the deck that wants it, but that deck might never, ever materialize. So, kind of a cool card if it's a token deck. In limited, it's solid, but not amazing because Wraths are awkward. It's just a fine card. Just a fine card. Up next is Jetmir, Nexus of Rebels, a freaking cat demon, like most cats are. Naya +1 for a 5/4, which is good stats. Just good solid stats. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have Vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. If you have 6 or more, it's +1/+0 and Trample. And if you have 9 or more, +1/+0 and Double Strike. This card's good. So, control 3 or more creatures includes this. So if you have this and 2 other creatures, it's an Anthem. +1/+0 and Vigilance. And Vigilance is great. Once you get to 6 creatures, +1/+0 and Trample is insane, and they stack. So now it's +2/+0, Trample, and Vigilance, which is great. And then, of course, if the board gets super gummed up, you get Double Strike and win the game. This card's good. It's funny because, like, it competes with the Haste or Lifelink Haster for the slot in this deck. But I think this card, if you're going super wide, is really, really good. Super solid curve topper. Probably the best of the demon lords or whatever, like the house or family leaders. Card's really good. Completely busted and limited. Just completely busted. Card's good. Card's very, very good. Up next is Ginny Faye Jetmar II. This is the hybrid Naya card. This card's also really good. So we have 3 mana for a 3/3. If you would make 1 or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 cat haste tokens or green dog vigilance tokens. Important to note that treasures are tokens. So this turns all your treasure makers into 2/2s, which is great. Kind of build around card. Seems pretty powerful. I'm not sure exactly what you do with this card in Constructed, but as a 3/3 for 3 isn't that bad. Also, blood tokens for sure. It's not that hard to make some 2/2s here. And you don't got to make too many 2/2 hasters for this card to be really, really good. So, plays well with the previous card, obviously. Just good, solid card. No cap per limit for sure. Yeah, this card's good. Good, solid card. The Cabaretti Common Mana Fixer is a 5/3 for 5. When it ETBs, make a citizen token, which is great. So this is a 6 power over 2 bodies for 5 mana and double alliance triggers. Probably the best of the bunch, I think. I think this is the best of these common mana fixers. And of course, the mana fixer as well. Pays you exile it, make your land better. And you can cast it later. So, card's great. Rocco, Cabaretti Caterer, is a pretty fun card here. Naya X for a 3/1. When it ETBs, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less and put it on the battlefield. This card's good. This card's pretty good. I cast this for 5 mana. I get a good 2-drop and a 3/1. That's good. Solid card. I don't know if like it's efficient enough to really want to build around it. Like, build like a toolbox deck around it. But it's not crazy. It's a good solid card. I think if the body was a little better, it would be like, it was like a 3/2 or a 3/3. We're talking like constructed, like a super solid constructed card. But as a 3/1, not super exciting. And then in limited, it's great. It's just super, super awesome. It's card advantage, great card. I guess in modern you can get Dryad Arbor with this, but is that even good? Not really. Not really. But card's cool. I like it. Fun card. Great limited card. Up next, we're going on to Maesros. Maesros is the Grixis combination. The Maesros ascendancy is 3 mana for enchantment. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a creature, in addition to paying some other costs. If a spell cast would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. This card's pretty bad. So you spend a card here, it's hard to cast. I need to sacrifice creatures to flashback spells. So I need to have creatures that I want to sacrifice. I need to have good spells in the graveyard. I need to resolve this thing. Like, it's a lot of steps. And if you're playing a lot of creatures, you're not playing a lot of spells, vice versa. Maybe you're playing some sort of like weird token deck, and like all your spells make tokens. You can just like play a Hordeling Outburst, make 3 tokens. Next turn, sack 1 token, flash it back. That could be kind of cool, but I don't think this is good enough to ever be reasonable. It needs too many things to function. If you want to flashback your spells, play Leer, play Snapcaster in older formats. It is what it is. It is what it is. Not great. Not great. The Maestro's Charm, however, is a really, really good one. I think it's the second best charm. Again, article and cool stuff. Go to the Charms article. Options here are Lightning Helix your opponent.
Oh, it's Lightning Helix! Oh my god!
Soul Seer a creature, 5 damage creature, Planeswalker. Or look at top 5, put 1 in your hand, rest in the graveyard. This card's good. This card's really good. Definitely going to be better if you're using your graveyard. Because if you pick 1 card, bin 4 cards, that's a lot of cards you're binning. So a lot of potential for value for graveyard stuff there. 5 to a creature Planeswalker is super solid. I think if you're not using the graveyard at all, this card loses a lot of value. But if you are, this card is excellent. Obviously a great limited card. And definitely a card we'll see constructed at some point. Cormella Glamour Thief is our uncommon legend. 4 mana for a 2/4 with haste. Pay 1 and add Grixis to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast instant or sorceries, and then when it dies, you return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. This card's really good. Like, really, really good. In limited, this card's a bomb. It's great. And then in constructed, I think this card's almost playable. Ramping by 2 is a lot. Like, you could play this card on turn 5, pay the 1 extra mana, make it into 3, and cast a charm. That's awesome. That's really good. And then when it dies, you get card advantage. You get a card back too. So I think this card has an outside shot at constructed. I think it is quite good. In limited, it's phenomenal. Just super solid card for card advantage. It's a fun card too. Pretty cool card. I like it. Corpse Appraiser is next. Sprouting Thrynax once again. We still have a Naya version of the good uncommon. This is the Grixis version. This card is also really, really good. A 3/3 for 3. When Corpse Appraiser ETBs, exile up to 1 target creature card from a graveyard. If a card is put into exile this way, look at your top 3 cards, put 1 in your hand and the rest in the graveyard. These self-perpetuate future Corpse Appraisers. And a 3/3 for 3 that casts Strategic Planning and draws a card and bins 2 cards is phenomenal. And it's not that hard to turn this thing on. You kill their creature, exile it, you self-mill, your creature dies, whatever it is. I don't know what deck wants this card, but the value is here. This is Sprouting Thrynax levels of value. Really, really good card. Phenomenal Unlimited. Needs a deck in constructed. I don't know if that deck will exist, but if it does, this card's super, super good. Super, super good. Moving on to Evelyn the Covetous. We have our hybrid card here, 5 mana total. Legendary Vampire Rogue, 2/5 with Flash. So decent sized butt there for Evelyn. When she or another vampire ETBs under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, and you may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast it. So, kind of a weird one. 2/5 Flash is kind of cool. And it effectively draws 2 cards when you cast it. So we're looking at a pretty good amount of value here. The problem is, in constructed, I don't know if 5 mana is a good deal to spend on a 2/5 with Flash that might draw a card. 5 mana can get us Leer. It can get us Goldspan Dragon. There's a lot of big things that 5 mana can get us. So constructed wise, well, I think this card is actually pretty close. I don't think it's quite good enough. In limited, it's busted. This card's absolutely busted. 5 5 thought this is great. It's a flash card. You can ambush blockers. And, of course, drawing 2 cards limited is awesome. And, of course, you can play more vampires also and draw more cards, too. So the ability is not limited to just the initial casting on it as well. So I think this is busted limited card. It's probably just not there in Constructed, but it is a really cool card. Obviously, playing your opponent's shit is really, really fun. Cool card. I like it. Probably not good enough for Constructed, but it's a cool card. It's a cool card. Glamorous Outlaw is the common in this cycle of mana fixers. It is a 6 mana 4/5. When it ETBs, deal 2 damage to each opponent and scry 2. So pretty good curve topper, though a little below the bar on rate compared to the other ones. But same thing. It's a mana fixer. It's good. Mana fixing plus a threat later on in the game is great. So it's solid. The worst of the ones we've seen so far, but it's solid. Scry 2 is pretty good. But 6 mana is a lot. 6 mana is a lot. And then Hostile Takeover. Cool card. 5 mana Grixis Sorcery. Up to 1 target creature becomes a 1/1. Up to 1 target creature becomes a 4/4. Then deal 3 to everything. So you can save your own creature and then shrink their big creature to a 1/1 and then kill it. This is going to be a rock and roll limited card. An absolute bomb. An absolute bomb. In Constructed, it's probably not good enough because typically 5 mana for a sweeper is a lot. And then the benefit of this card is kind of like, I can save my thing and kill your big thing. But in Constructed, you're not often playing a 5 mana sweeper in your creature deck. So I think overall, this is more of a fun limited card. It's cool. It's definitely a cool card. One to watch out for. Gonna win a lot of limited games. Lord Xander the Collector is the Grixis Demon Vampire. And this is going to be a big commander card for you commander folks out there. 7 mana for a 6/6 with no abilities, combat-wise. When it ETBs, your opponent discards half the cards in their hand rounded down. When it attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded down. When it dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control rounded down. The only saving grace for this card in Constructed is its interaction with Sorin Imperious Bloodlord. Sorin is a 3-mana planeswalker that can put a vampire into play for free. That being said, this card's almost uncastable otherwise and probably not worth it in that deck compared to something like Champion of the Dusk, which is just like a less powerful effect but very, very castable card. Don't think this card's very, very good. This is more of a casual card. In Limited, obviously, it's great because it's just a good bomb, but Constructed, not really. Speaking of Constructed, though, Maesros Diabolist. This card is actually awesome. We have a Grixis for a 1/4 Death Touch Haste. Whenever it attacks, if you don't control a devil, make a tap devil that's tapped and attacking. And devils, of course, are 1/1s that when they die deal 1 damage. I think this card's great. I think this card's awesome. This card is a never-ending source of things to sacrifice. It's a solid threat where it's just 2 power of haste. It's hard to kill. Multicolored, has death touch. Can block in a pinch or whatever. Is there a deck for it Constructed? Maybe not. It definitely it requires a number of things. Like, this is a really good piece for like a sacrificey, tokeny sort of kind of deck. But that deck might not be Grixis, so it just might not be good enough. In Limited, it's phenomenal. It's a super insanely good card. Like, insanely good card. But Constructed, I think it's had a chance. But it might not be all the way there. But super cool card. Vampire up, Problem Master, almost. But doesn't stack up. If it didn't have the limitation of only 1 devil, this card would be busted. Like, busted. But if you can use that devil every turn and sacrifice it for value, which you definitely can do in deck building, I think this card's really, really good. Really, really good. Moving on to Obscura. Obscura is the Esper Shard. And the Obscura Ascendancy is really, really weird. Whenever you cast a spell, if its mana value is equal to 1 plus the number of soul counters on the Ascendancy, put a soul counter on it and make a 2/2 flyer. As long as there are 5 or more soul counters on Obscura Ascendancy, spirits you control get +3/+3. So basically, when you play this, you play a 1-drop, you get a 2/2. Then you play a 2-drop, you get a 2/2. Play a 3-drop, you get a 2/2. It's got to be in that order. So it's pretty hard to trigger. That being said, if you do get it going, it is quite good. Say, for example, you play this on turn 4 and cast a 1 mana spell immediately and get a 2/2. Then untap and play a 2 mana spell and get a 2/2. That is decent value. But this card needs to make at least 2 creatures to even be remotely worth it. It does scale up okay, but I think that the fact that the fact that you need to have the right mana cost at the right time makes this very difficult. I suppose you could play X spells to try and trigger it, sure, but the payoff here is just a couple 2/2 flyers. You know, getting it up to 5 is going to be very, very difficult. I think this card is actually a little bit better than it looks, but I think it looks awful, so that's not saying much. Then in Limited, the problem here is you don't play many 1-drops usually, so it's hard to get that first counter on it. Probably not playable in Limited either. It's a cool card. It's kind of a cool card, but I think overall it's probably just not good enough. Come to Obscura Charm.
It's a trap.
This is the worst charm, and it's not even close. Esper Charm here. Choose one. Return target multicolored permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped. People see this and they go, I can bring Teferi back. I mean, you can, but is that even good? You know, it can only return multicolored permanents, which is very, very limiting. It only returns things tapped, so you can't block with them. And then you never get any discount here either. You know, if you cast Unearth and return a creature, at least you got some mana discount, right? But Unearth isn't even that good because you really need to be very graveyard-centric to use it, because you can't risk having it and have it not have anything in your graveyard. So I think the first mode of this card is just actively bad. Just play another good 3-drop. You know, you don't need to maybe bring back your Teferi or your whatever. Just play another good card. Why have a card that might just be dead? Chapter 2, or Ability 2, is Counter Instant or Sorcery. That is not worth 3 mana. Envelop and Dispel are good cards because they cost 1. And they're able to win that counter war or whatever it is. And the third mode is Eliminate, which is an okay card, but not at a hard to cast 3 mana. So I think this card is atrocious. Every part of this card's terrible. And you are not getting anything good from one of these things. I discussed it more in my article about charms. Go read it. But I think this card is just terrible. Just terrible in Limited. And Constructed. In Limited, it's great. In Limited, just like a kill spell. They can maybe do some other stuff too. So it's good. It's fine. In Constructed, though, I think this card's actually unplayable. Like, actually unplayable. So, there's your hot take. Card's real bad. Moving on. Nimble Larcenist. This card's really good. It's good with the charm too, I suppose. It's a good card to recur. But Larcenist is Soul Collector on steroids. Esper mana for a 2/1 flying bird rogue. When it ETBs, look at their hand, choose artifact, instant, or sorcery, and exile it. That's good. So Soul Collector was basically this card without flying and no blue mana. Saw a lot of play. Is a human, obviously, but I think if there's an Esper deck in Standard, this card will see a lot of play in the sideboard. Super solid card. Like it a lot. Good limited card too. If you miss this card in Limited, it's not the end of the world. You know, and if you hit, it's just insane. Cool card. Like it a lot. This is the Esper good uncommon card. There's Obscura Interceptor here, which is a 4 mana 3/1 with flash and lifelink. When it ETBs, you can knive. When you can knive, you can return a spell to its owner's hand. This card is really weird. So effectively, this is a 4/2 flash lifelink that draws a card, discards a card, and bounces a spell. That's kind of a cool tempo play, but the reality is it's pretty hard to cast. It's pretty clunky at 4 mana. It's going to be pretty transparent when you do it, and you're only bouncing the spell. So you're not putting it on top of your library. You're not countering it. It's okay, but it can't affect things in the battlefield. The body is only okay. I think if you there's some sort of weird tempo deck, this could be a thing. I think it's like a sideboard card against like a ramp deck. Maybe this could be kind of a cool thing. It is cool that it can counter or bounce uncounterable spells, which is kind of cool. But I think on the whole, people are going to overestimate the ability of this card. I think it's okay. Having lifelink is a huge plus. Without lifelink, this card's unplayable, I think. But overall, I think this card is just okay. It's just okay. In Limited, it's great. I think a 4/2 lifelink flash creature is totally fine in Limited. And And then in constructed, though, I think it's just a little too clunky and not great. Not great. As a 4/2, it can affect the battlefield, but it will be hard for it to do so in a meaningful way. It's not blocking many things and surviving the block, and it can attack, but it's very fragile. It dies to almost every removal spell, and then it can't really attack through much either. So a 4/2 body is just not particularly incredible. So I think it's all right. I think it's all right, but not great. And people are going to overvalue this card for sure. I think Frilled Mystic is also a card people drastically overvaluated, and Frilled Mystic is much better than that card. Up next is the Augur of Agonies, which is a 4-drop Esper uncommon legend. Whenever you draw a card, opponent loses one, you gain one. Great limited card. Obviously, it's a Connive enabler. Or Connive, right? Yeah, Connive enabler. You just drain, draw, discard. It's kind of cool. But constructed, no. Good limited card, bad constructed card. And then we have Rafine, Scheming Seer. This is the Sphinx Demon, head of the Esper house. Esper mana for a 1/4 flying ward 1. Pretty good. Pretty durable, honestly. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, or X is the number of attacking creatures. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, honestly. So this card is very good at like conniving a lot, dumping cards in the graveyard, looting, which is pretty sweet. And then, of course, you can play it immediately, trigger off a 2-drop or a 1-drop, and it's got Ward to protect itself. This card is the issue of I don't necessarily know where it goes, but it is very powerful. The raw stats are here, and you can burn through your deck, discard a lot of cards, grow things really big, and it's cheap and it protects itself. This card's very, very good. I don't know what you do with it yet, but this card is very, very good. Probably the most playable of all of the demon lords. Card's good. Card's good, for sure. And our common Esper mana fixing common is Shattered Sephiroth. Seraph. Let me alone. 7 mana for a 4/4 flyer. ETBs gain 3 life. Expensive, but good. And then, of course, there's the mana fixing ability as well. If you cast this one, it is really, really good, but 7 is a lot. 7 is a lot, but good card. Decent common, good mana fixer. Very solid. Then we have our hybrid Esper card in the Clever Conductor. 3 mana for a 3/1. When it ETBs, it connives. When you discard one or more cards, you exile them from your graveyard. And then when it dies, put the cards exiled with it into their owner's hands. So this card is okay. It's kind of like a weird connive lord, where if you keep conniving and discarding cards, this thing will bank them up. And when it dies, you get them back. But is that like good? In limited, it's phenomenal. In constructed, you play that and they exile it and you just feel bad about yourself. I don't think conniving is really, like, if you're playing a connive card in constructed, play the freaking schemer. You know, don't play this card. I don't think so. I think this card's kind of eh. It is a rogue. It's a human, which might matter, but the effect is just too kind of eh. Too kind of eh for a 3-drop. It's too fragile. Then we come to Void Rend. No wards. Void Rend is good. Don't get me wrong. It's a good card. Is it a great card? I wouldn't say it's necessarily a great card. It does destroy, not exile. If it exiled, we'd be probably in best of show territory because exiling is that good. As it stands, though, it's a hard to cast good removal spell. You aren't happy if you're killing your opponent's Werewolf Path Leader with this card, you know, or 2-drop or whatever. Even trading for a 3-drop is okay. It's not great. Obviously, this card, killing a Planeswalker is pretty great. Killing enchantments is pretty great. It's a solid card. It's a solid card. But people really tend to overvalue cards like this because it is just okay. It's never amazing. You know, it's never incredible. It's just a solid card. You know, is it better than Banishing versus Standard? Maybe not. Honestly, maybe not. 3 is a lot more than 2. 3 is a lot more than 2. So, solid card. Probably the kind of card you play as like a 2 of in your deck. It's not a 4 of probably, but it's a good card. It is a good card. Can't be counter clause is kind of nice, but overall, it's just good. It's just good. Nothing great. In limited, first pick kill spell, obviously, but then we get on to Riveteers. Riveteers are the Jund clan, and they're the hard-working steel workers here. This Jund ascendancy is Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may return to a creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Do this once each turn. This is a powerful effect. This is a really, really difficult effect to use because very often when you're sacrificing things, they're usually tokens or 1-drops. So difficult to get value out of this. If you're sacking a 2-drop or a 3-drop, now you're sacrificing a card you spent good mana on, and you're not really getting a great exchange. You're limited to once turn. I think if you're not limited to once turn, it's like a great combo card probably. But as it stands, I think this card is probably just not very good. It's cool. It's a cool card, but probably the juice ain't worth the squeeze. And then in limited, it just seems too hard to work. It is good with Blitz. That is true. It is good with Blitz. But all in all, probably not great. Probably not great. However, Riveteers Charm is the best charm, and it is not particularly close. Jund Mana instant. What do you get? You get, choose one, Soul Shatter, which is already a playable card by itself for this exact mana cost. CMC, not colors. Soul Shatter, sacrifice creature. Good card. Good against Snakeskin Veil. Very, very solid card. Second ability is exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards. Now, it is not until your next end step. You play it on your turn. You must use the cards before your turn is over. However, if you cast it on your opponent's turn, you have the entire cycle back to your end step. So cast this end step, flip 3, completely untap, and then get to go off them, which is awesome. And then exile target's player's graveyard is not a card, not an effect worth 3 mana, but a good one to have. So we have good kill spell and good card draw spell here. You might not play 4 of this card. It might be like more of a 2 or a 3 of, but it is very, very good. Very, very good. Good kill spell and good card draw spell. Excellent. Excellent limited. Excellent constructed. Very good card. Very good card. Crew Captain. Uncommon legend here is Jund Mana for a 4/2 haste, which is just good, honestly. And it has indestructible when it enters the battlefield this turn. Phenomenal limited card. Honestly, constructed, maybe, probably not, but a 4-power haste creature that can get in for no matter what for 4 damage is pretty good. So, great limited card. Fringe constructed card, possibly. It's a lot of stats and a lot of good abilities for a thing. And it's also important to note this is not a trigger. It doesn't come into play and gain haste, gain indestructible on a turn. It just is, so you can't kill it in response. So, solid card. Solid card. Love those pants, too. Love those pants. Mass Bandits is the Jund Mana Fixing Common. 6 mana for a 5/5 Vigilance Menace, which is pretty good. And then, of course, it has the Mana Fixing ability, which is solid. We have Mr. Oreo here, the Boulder. 4 mana for a 2/4. When you attack, double target is powered on the turn. So, floor here is a 4/4 attacker, 2/4 blocker. Ceiling is pretty high. If I have a 5/5, now it's 10/5, etc., etc. Card's good. Rock solid limited card. Not a constructed card, but rock solid limited card. And then we have Agnes, the Dragon's Lash, which is your hybrid card in Jund. 3/3 haste for 4. Whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, make a tapped treasure token, which is pretty good. Kind of like a haste lord. Great and limited. Phenomenal. Constructed, probably not. If the treasures weren't tapped, and we were talking about like, haste creature, attack, make 3 treasures, use them immediately, sure. But without the Goldspan Dragon-like effect, I don't think it's good enough for constructed, but great draft card. Yes, the treasures that are tapped, you cannot use them. So there's multiple effects in this set that make tap treasures to kind of stop you from popping off, basically. Which is cool. Unleash the Inferno is a weird one. 4 mana instant removal spell. 7 damage to a creature or planeswalker. And then if it deals excess damage, you can destroy an artifact or enchantment an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to the amount of excess damage. Really weird card, right? So I get to kill your thing, and then I get to shatter or disenchant something if the mana value was the difference between the toughness and the damage. weird card because it's a clunky removal spell, and it just probably isn't going to kill what you want it to kill if you do want to kill it, which makes it sort of like, is this a sideboard card? Is this a main deck card? I don't really know. If it's a main deck card, I don't know if it'll do enough. If it's a sideboard card, why am I not just bringing in like an actual disenchant? Why am I bringing him as like weird, 4 mana awkward removal spell? 4 mana instant speed to basically kill a creature planeswalker isn't that bad. And there could be some 2-for-1 potential here as well. So I suppose against like a sacrifice deck or something like that, you can kill their anvil. But also, if they're playing sacrificing stuff and they sack the creature, it fizzles. So I don't know. We'll see. It's a very unique, interesting card. It's obviously phenomenal kill spell unlimited. Constructed, though, could have fringe applications. Then we come to the Demon of Jund, the Incinerator here, big dragon. 6 mana for a 6/6 flying. Beginning of your end step, may sack a creature. When you do, it deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target and make 3 treasures. Corvold, this is not, unfortunately. At 6 mana, this is too much. If this is a 5 mana 5/5, this card would be phenomenal, I think. But at 6 mana, it's just too expensive. It requires you to play 6 mana for a 6-drop, can't protect itself, and then you can sack a creature, but you have to have a good thing to sacrifice, good thing to target, etc., etc. So, all in all, absolute limited slam dunk bomb, but constructed, not really there. And then we have Zeotora's Envoy, which is a Jund 4-drop 5/4 trample, which is pretty good. Good stats, honestly. It deals combat damage to a player. Look at the top card of your library. You may play a land from the top of your library or cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the damage dealt from the top of your library without paying its mana cost. If you don't, put that card in your hand. So, pretty cool card. You hit them, and you can play things up top for free in theory. It has Blitz also, although I don't know if I want to Blitz this card for 5, honestly, Constructed isn't really there. The bar for a 4-drop is pretty high, but in limited, this card's super awesome. Super powerful card. It's cool. It's a cool card. And then we move on to the non-family cards. So moving on to the non-family cards, we have Aven Heartstabber. Dimir 2-drop, 1/1 flyer. As long as there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard, gets +2/+2 and Death Touch, which is pretty good. When it dies, mill 2, then draw a card. So, at its floor, this is a 1/1 flyer for 2. Then it dies, you draw a card. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good. It's good fodder to sacrifice to connive abilities and stuff like that. Not connive, I'm sorry. Casualty abilities. And then if you manage to hit the delirium, pseudo delirium, whatever, a 3/3 flyer for 2 is also really, really good. So, solid card, great limited card, like phenomenal limited card. Constructed, I can see this being a thing, honestly. It's a good card to exploit, good card to sacrifice, and then it's solid. It's solid. And lands do count as mana value 1. Or 0, 0. So lands will help you get your delirium. So, cool card. Black Market Tycoon. This card's pretty overrated, I think. Red green for a 2/2. Tap, make a treasure. Beginning of your upkeep, it'll deal 2 damage to you for each treasure you control. So, as a 2/2 that just taps for any color, this card is reasonable. Although that's not that special. That's like fine. As a treasure synergy card, it's kind of weird because you can't really afford to leave treasures around. 2 damage will really add up really, really fast. But if you can spend them quickly, maybe. I think this card will definitely see play for sure, but I think it's hard to say how good this is in a dedicated treasure deck because of that drawback. So, card's good. Card's definitely good, but I think people are going to underestimate that drawback just a little bit. And then limited, the card's great. Just a good solid card, obviously. Good enabler, good mana creature, good 2-drop. Most gold cards are good limited. In our next one here is a Rakdos Common Body Dropper, 2 mana for a 2/2, which is fine. When you sacrifice another creature, put a counter on it, and then pay 2, sack a creature, and gains menace on the turn. This card's pretty good. If you're a Grixis deck, if you're sacrificing stuff, the floor is a bear, which obviously is fine. And then you sacrifice that first creature to a different spell, and you get a 3/3. It's pretty good also. Solid card. Just solid card. Solid draft card. Celestial Regulator. This is a Azorius 2/3 flyer for 3, which is already good. When it ETBs, choose a creature you don't control and tap it. If you control a creature with a counter on it, it does not untap during its next untap step. This card is good. This card is very good. These sort of like Frost, Aven, Flying, Icy Tapper cards are normally very, very good. Obviously, you want to have some counter creatures to make this really, really good. Even if you don't, just a 2/3 flyer for 3 with tap something once is not that bad. And then if you do have a counter thing, this card is really good. Like, top flight common good. So, exceptional in your Bant deck that uses counters. Still totally reasonable in your non-Bant deck. Good card. Good card. Ceremonial Groundbreaker, the frickin' shovel, is not quite Locks on Warhammer or whatever the name of the green-white version of that is. I can't remember. 3 mana for an equipment. Creature gets +2/+1, has trample. It is 1 mana to equip a citizen. It is 3 mana to equip a regular creature. This card is okay if you're citizening, because 3 to equip is not okay. Trample's good. +2/+1 is pretty good. If I'm playing a lot of citizens, I think I'm pretty happy with this card. 4 mana, play it, equip it immediately, pretty solid. Without citizens, this card's pretty awkward. I think if we're talking +2/+2 here, I'm much happier. +2/+1 is not the biggest boost. So assume we have a 1/1 citizen. It's going to be a 3/2 trample, which is only okay. I think this card's medium. I think this card's kind of medium. If your deck requires a way to push through, it can do that. But if you have ways to push through already, it's kind of slow and clunky. It ain't no Armadillo Cloak, that's for sure. But it's okay. It's a fine card if you're looking for a way to push through, I think. And limited. Constructed, absolutely not. Civil Servant. Oh boy. It's a Bombin Common. That's what's up. This card's great. This Behemoth Sled, that's the one. That's what I was looking for. This card's awesome. Green-white for a 2/3, which is already, like, fine. You know? Whenever it attacks, you may tap an untapped citizen. If you do, +1/+0 and Lifelink. Lifelink is perhaps one of the best abilities in Limited. It is very, very, very good. And a 3/3 Lifelink for 2. A 2/2 Lifelink for 2 is like just a good, actively good card. And this can easily be a 3/3 Lifelink for 2 and often. The rate here is just out of this world for a common. This card is phenomenal. Phenomenally good. And then if you can augment it with some counter stuff as well, we're talking big time here. There's like the white citizen, like it puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature. You like put a counter on this, then pump it. Now it's a 4/4 lifelinker. Card's great. Really, really good. Unbelievably good common. Bombin Common for sure. Constructed, honestly, I don't think it's insane. A 3/3 lifelink for 2 of it is just pretty good. But for the most part, I think this is more of a limited card. But I don't think it's out there. Honestly. Bombin Common. Corpse Explosion. Where my Diablo 2 Necromancers at? Huh? Amp damage. Corpse Explosion. 3 mana rare, Rakdos sorcery. Additional cost to cast this spell. Exile a creature card from your graveyard. Corpse Explosion deals damage equal to the exile's card's power to each creature and each planeswalker. Yeah, this is literally just Corpse Explosion from Diablo. This card is weird. It's a sweeper, but it requires extra help, which is not great. You lose the card in your graveyard. It's just weird. It's just a weird card. If you're some sort of graveyard deck that has tons of creatures that are big in the graveyard, like if you're like, a big self-mill deck or like a Rammer deck that's like really, really good at putting cards in the graveyard, sure. But I think this card is mostly pretty mopey. Too many hoops. Just play a more reliable card. And then in Limited, it's finicky. You can make it work, but it's pretty finicky. Darling of the Masses is a green-white uncommon. 4 mana for a 2/4. It's a partial lord for your citizens, +2/+1. Whenever it attacks, make a citizen. Bomb uncommon in Limited. Bomb mythic uncommon. Super, super good. We're pumping cards. We're making creatures. Good Good stats, good butt. Card's great. Card's great. Super good. Super good card. Good draft card. Exotic Pets. This is a weird one. This is our Q Finding Nemo. 3 mana for a Azorius instant. Make 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens with unblockable. Then, for each kind of counter among creatures you control, put a counter of that kind onto either of these tokens. So, you could go nuts with this if you have like weird ability counters and all sorts of crap like that. The reality here is this is a effectively 2 unblockable 1/1s for 3, which is fine. This can be fodder for your I keep saying connive. Fodder for your casualty spells. If you have counter stuff going on, you can like put the counters on these creatures, which is kind of cool. This card is going to play a lot better than it looks, I think. I think it does look pretty reasonable. And then in constructed, this card could be there in constructed, honestly. I don't think it's crazy that this card could be a thing constructed. It's a very strange card, very strange art, very strange name, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And you can get all the counters too. It's not like you choose one, you get all of them. So if I have a +1/+1 counter, a shield counter, a flying counter, and a whatever counter, that's pretty good. It's not both, I guess, right? It's putting counter, but it's still pretty good. And they're also blockable too, so the +1/+1 counters are great too. Solid card. Very, very solid card. Good limited card. Outside shot for constructed. Fatal Grudge is next. This card's good. Rakdos Sorcery. Sack a non-land permanent when you cast it. Each opponent sacks a permanent of the type you sacrificed. Draw a card. So, I sack Shambling Guest. They have sack creature. And I draw a card. It's pretty good. I don't know if there's room for this card with all the Rakdos sacrifice cards there are. But this card is pretty cool. Sack an artifact. They was an artifact. And so on and so forth. I don't know if there's room, but it is sweet. It is sweet. Card's cool. Card's cool. And then limited cards, pretty good. Plays very well with the Blitz cards. And then can kind of cross-contaminate with some of the Sacrificing Grixis cards too. So, card's cool. Card's cool. Forge Boss. Not quite Mayhem Devil. 4 mana for a 3/4. Sacrifice one or more other creatures. It deals 2 damage each opponent. Only once turns. Only opponent. Only once turn. Still a good draft card. But obviously not playable constructed. But good draft card. Good draft card for sure. Jetmir's Fixer. We got Gruul 2-drop. Cat Warrior. Pay Gruul. Get a +1/+1 on a turn. If a treasure was used for the ability, add a counter. It's pretty good. Solid 2-drop. Decent ability. As far as the mana sink goes. And then in treasure can pump it up as well. Card's good. Good solid 2-drop. Rock solid. Meaning of the 5. Oh boy. Wooburg +3 for a sorcery. This is like we're in crazy town over here. So,
Gentlemen.
just like ridiculous stuff here. Exile top 10 cards in your library. You may cast spells with exactly 3 colors from among them this turn. Gotta pay for them still. Add double Wooburg. Spend this mana to only cast spells with exactly 3 colors. This is an 8 mana card. Your 8 mana card better win the game. Not maybe do some cool stuff. So this card is yeah. I don't even know. I'm done. I can't deal with this card right now. Honestly though, in limited, if you can cast it, it's good. But the problem, of course, is that like 10 cards is a lot in my deck. So I don't know. Whatever. It's just a stupid card. Metropolis Angel is a 4 mana for a 3/1 flyer. And whenever you attack one or more creatures with counters on them, draw a card. Great limited card. Obviously, it's a payoff for counters and limited. If you play this, attack with a counter creature, draw a card immediately, you're way ahead in limited. So, great draft card. Super solid. Super solid.
Still a piece of garbage.
We come to Ob Nixilis the Adversary. We got Thanos in a freaking pinstripe suit here. And we're going to best in show. But I think that the hype here is a little overblown. I do think this card is very good, but I kind of get the feeling that it might not be as good as it looks. The problem is that it's such a bizarre Magic card. It is really, really difficult to parse how it's going to play. So we have a 3 mana Planeswalker here for Rakdos mana. 3 loyalty. It has Casualty X, where you can sacrifice a creature, and if you do, you get a copy of Ob Nixilis that is not legendary. It has loyalty equal to X. So if I sack a 1/1, it'll have 1 loyalty. If I sack a Skyclave Shade, it'll have 3 loyalty, and so on and so forth. +1, each opponent loses 2 life. Let's say discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life. -2, make a devil. -7, draw 7, lose 7. So obviously, with both Ob Nixilis working in concert, say you sack a Shambling Guest, you have a Ob Nixilis on 3 and an Ob Nixilis on 1. And then you get to like minus the 1 on 3 to make a devil, plus the 1 on 1 to use the ability. And while I agree the Punisher cards aren't great, the reality is that the amount of material you're getting here is just so high. You're talking about 2 Planeswalkers for 3 mana. And while you're maybe they just take 2 the first time, or take 2 the second time, there's just so many things happening. When you add in the Anvil and the Shambling Gas, all the other crap going on. It's just so much material. So I think this card is good. I am not going to lie. I am not sure. I think things might be a little overblown, but I'm in. You got me. If this card's overrated, I've been fooled. I'm putting it out there that I think I'm worried that I might be fooled, but it does look really freaking good to me. So we'll see. And yeah, even if they like have to like use a spell to kill this or attack it, it's still a lot of material for 3 mana, you know. So cards seems really good. Busted and limited, obviously. But Ob Daddy looking pretty good. Up next is Park Heights Pegasus, which is a Selesnya 2/1 flying trample, which is already good enough and limited. Discount with damage to a player, draw a card if you had 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn. This is going to be a great card in limited. Phenomenal card. Just like 2/1 flyer over 2 is great. Might draw some cards. Awesome. In constructed, this card could see play. You know, if we play this card on turn 2 and then play like a token maker on turn 3 or whatever it is, just attack and draw a card, that's pretty good. So solid multicolored card here. Limited bomb, solid card, a little flample action. This card's good. Scheming Fence. What the hell does that mean? Fence? Like Azorius 2-drop, it's 2/3. When it ETBs, choose a permanent. Opponent cannot activate abilities of chosen permanent. So locks it down. This thing gains all the activated abilities of that permanent, except for loyalty abilities. So really, really weird card. It can turn off Planeswalkers, but you can't steal the abilities. And then you can maybe steal some cool abilities, and I don't really know what you're doing with it exactly. But I don't know. It's a very weird card. I think you need to have a goal in mind when you play this card. Probably more of a sideboard card. But I don't know. It's weird. Apparently a fence, someone who buys stolen goods. I didn't know. I'm not a mobster. What do you want from me? Security Rocks. 4 mana for a 5/4. You may pay a red and a green rather than pay the spell's mana cost, only with treasures. This card, I think, is a little too all-in for constructed. Yes, you can play this card on turn 2 in theory in constructed, but then they just kill it and you just lose your card. So I think this card, there are a lot of cards like this where it's like you can do some hoop and play this thing for as a 2 mana 5/4 that aren't usually good. The fail state of being a 4 mana 5/4 isn't that bad, so it's a great limited card. But I think this is more of a trap for constructed than anything else. I don't think there are enough treasure makers early on to make this card really, really good. So all in all, not super impressive as a card for constructed, but I think it's very, very good and limited. Snooping Newsy. Demir 2-drop, pretty good. ETBs and Mill 2, pretty good. And then it has the 5-card Delirium, where it'll be a +1/+1 of lifelink. This is a good common. This is a very good common. Definitely going to want to have a big spread of mana costs because you want to activate this thing. But at the same time, if you don't, it's all right. And if you do, it's great. Solid draft common for Demir for sure. Stimulus Package. Great card name. Gruul Enchantment for 4. ETBs make 2 treasures. This card allows you to turn treasures into tokens. It's kind of cool because you get the instant speed alliance effects, which is sweet. But all in all, we're looking at 4 mana for 2/1/1s, and then maybe a little value later. If you're like a big time treasure deck, this can definitely do some work for you. But I think the rate here might be a little too much. I think if it would cost like 3, it would look pretty good. It does ramp you also, which is kind of cool. But yeah, all in all, I think this card's a little underwhelming. Syndicate Infiltrator is a 4 mana 3/3 flyer for 4, obviously. And then same thing, Delirium is +2/+2. This card is just a very good limited card. The 3/3 flyer for 4 is fine. And then, of course, if it's a 5/5, it's insane. So, great limited card. Don't need to work too hard for it, but if you hit it, great. Not constructed card. Tainted Indulgence is a Demir instant. Draw 2. Then, if you don't have the 5-card Delirium, discard a card. This card's good. Instant speed, draw 2, discard 1 is fine. Like Chart, of course. And then if you do make the Delirium, I think it's really, really good. I'm not sure how easy it'll be to get the Delirium effect or how much you want to work for it. But even if you're just like playing Reanimator, you just want to discard a card. This card's great. So solid card. I like this card a lot. Might never find a home, but solid. And limited is also pretty good too. Just discard your land or whatever. It's a super solid card. So to recap for Multicolor, best in show, Obnixilus. Although I'm not sure. Obscura Charm is the trap card. We've got Broker Ascendancy here as the sleeper card. And we've got Civil Servant as our Bombin Common. All we got left is colorless cards. There aren't too many of them, so I'm going to finish up here. I know this is a very, very long section. Let me know in the comments if I should have broken this up, what your thoughts are. Comments, YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff. We're almost done. Colorless and Lancer next. Let's go.